Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is a Red Pill Podcast 177, and as promised last week, this will be the What I'm Investing In special part 6 in the series. Really looking forward to get into this one today. We have a little over 20 altcoins to look at, so let's get straight into today's podcast. Before we get started, make sure to get comfortable, get relaxed, grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea if it's the morning time, or a glass of wine or beer or any beverage of your choice. I myself am going with just some plain water, and I'm prepping for a dry fast soon, so really looking forward to that. Nice little reset, and we'll see how it goes. And I'll keep you guys updated if you're interested. But anyways, if you are new here to the Wolfpack, welcome. It is so great to have you with us. If you've yet to get access to our Discord server, just go ahead and send me a direct message here on Patreon with your Discord username, and I will reply back to you in a Patreon direct message with our Discord server invite. Please don't email me or write a comment below asking for Discord access. I won't be able to get you onboarded that way. Just follow those instructions I just shared. And starting next week, we'll be back in the normal swing of things with the altcoin voting system. Since, obviously, today we're doing the What I'm Investing In special, I'm going to be going over my entire portfolio throughout today's podcast. And next week, we'll be back on our normal 4 to 5 different altcoins that you guys vote for. So make sure in the comments section below this Patreon post, you submit the altcoin and ticker symbol that you're interested in me covering next week. Obviously, please do not put any of the altcoins that I'm covering today. And we like to give about 2 to 3 months of time in between the last time we covered an altcoin. So you can use the search function either in Patreon or the search function in Discord simply by typing in my name, and then you can actually search all the keywords that I've wrote in Discord, and you could type in the name of the crypto. The odds are the last time that I typed that word out was when I covered it in a Red Pill podcast. So we'll be back in the normal swing of things next week. This week, we'll be getting into our What I'm Investing In special part 6 starting now. So during last week in the Red Pill, Bitcoin was trading at actually a very similar level to where it's priced at today. We did get a little bit of red into the weekly close after I posted the podcast, but needless to say, it's pretty sideways over the past week. And during the last Red Pill, I went through every month of August in the Bitcoin chart, reviewing over 10 years of data to recap a pattern for August 16th through August 19th. And I mentioned to expect a short-term correction leading into this time frame. And more specifically, I mentioned that I was not anticipating Bitcoin to go lower than where it did during this August new moon flash correction, which was all the way down to about 49K and a bounce closing the lowest daily close so far in the microcycle around 54K. I mentioned that I did expect at least a short-term correction through, which would be in alignment with our normal full moon corrections we usually see, and with tomorrow being the full moon, I told everyone to consider a 5-day window around the full moon for this pullback, which is the dates of August 14th through the 24th, which will be this upcoming Saturn day or next weekend. And I put emphasis on the 57K level as an area of significance for Bitcoin support during this corrective phase that we anticipated. And this was also in alignment with the Mercury retrograde analysis that I shared with you all back in the previous 2 Red Pill podcasts, about 2 weeks before Mercury retrograde was going to occur, and as well as the week before. And I even reviewed that analysis again in last week's Red Pill. So let's check in with where Bitcoin is at now and see how that all transpired this week. As you could see, Bitcoin did in fact have that short-term correction through August 14th. It did not go as low as it did on the August new moon flash crash, and you could see on August 15th, that was the key date that I mentioned in at least my last 3 videos, as well as the key date of August 16th, and Bitcoin effectively pivoted on August 16th. keeping a daily close above 57K, which was right on the money with not only the price target, but the timing of the move as well. So with tomorrow being the full moon, we have until around August 24th, or let's just call it next weekend when the next red pill will be shared, to see a more noticeable pivot. And with the third quarter moon on August 26th, the following Monday, this should give some relief to the crypto market to move into the next new moon, which will be on September 2nd, excuse me. And the level we'd want to see Bitcoin recover above during that next phase would be the local high over here of August 8th, which was around 62K on a daily close. But in all honesty, I really want to see Bitcoin back in the 70K territory soon, ideally within September, leading into this upcoming October 2nd solar eclipse. Because by September 1st, the start of September, it'll be our 6th month of trading sideways for Bitcoin. And this means it's been pretty much 6 months of the altcoin market trading sideways into the downside, with a noticeable mid-cycle correction for a majority of the altcoin market. And that's been nice for buying opportunities, but it's a little bit arduous at this point. It's a little bit, tedious, and it's really time to move on to the next phase of this bull run. Otherwise, it'll start looking a little sketchy if we're not in a recovery mode and heading into price discovery to start off Q4. And I mean that for Bitcoin mostly, but the next phase of the bull run should feel like Bitcoin surging, breaking above this 71.5K level, macro closes above 72K. You'll see Bitcoin dominance rise quite dramatically during that phase as well. You'll probably see Bitcoin dominance above 60%. And then after Bitcoin enters price discovery, which it'll end in phases, there'll be an initial phase probably in the 80K zone. Then there'll be another one maybe like around 90-ish to get people to maybe start longing a little bit too late. And then there'll be a spike into the 100K level, probably followed by a short-term pullback just because of that psychological level of 100K. And then during that moment right there is when we'll see some dominance given up. We'll see a lot of the alt market recover dramatically during that moment. And it'll be reminiscent of like October of last year, where we saw this big move up over here into January. That'll be like the move for Bitcoin from 70 to 100. And then this pullback right here will be that one where it's at that 100K level, like that psychological level, followed by a pullback. There'll be a short-term bear trap, most likely. And then this move right here to March, that'll be akin to that like price discovery moment for the altcoins. I'm not saying that altcoins are all going to go into price discovery because most of them are down a lot, but I at least anticipate Ethereum, Solana, like these big heavy hitters that are already within the all-time highs anyways. For instance, Binance coin, BNB, those are the ones that I would see kind of following into that next phase with Bitcoin. And the timing will probably be very similar too. But we have these two weird months of August and September. They're always weird months, typically because of the Hebrew New Year, Rosh Hashanah. But this time we have the Hebrew New Year on the October 2nd solar eclipse, which I'm going to be talking about in a moment. So anyways, I've shown you in countless Red Pill podcasts, usually Bitcoin is either at all-time highs or at least retesting all-time highs by the 4th solar eclipse of our solar cycle, which will be October 2nd. The October 2nd solar eclipse. It's the same time as Rosh Hashanah, the Hebrew New Year, which will be from October 2nd through October 4th. And that'll be the Hebrew year of 5,785. And when you add that all up, it reduces to 25. This is one of the most important numbers for crypto, specifically from a more esoteric perspective, because crypto equals 25 in Chaldean. It also equals 97, which is the 25th prime number. Also, BTC, the ticker symbol of the first ever crypto project, you got that 25 right there. The mirror of 25 is 52. Cryptocurrency gives you 52 in Chaldean. This is pretty powerful stuff. The number 25 esoterically is 2 fives, that becomes 55, which we have in Satoshi Nakamoto, giving you 55 in multiple ciphers. And remember, April 5th, 2025, it will be Satoshi's 50th birthday, and that's the Jubilee number. And that will be going on during the Hebrew year that adds up to 25, 5785. So this 25 code is powerful, specifically for Satoshi and for crypto, of course. And the Jubilee is actually a positive year for whatever it's associated with. We see this also in the traditional markets when we look at the year from September 2022 till September 2023. That was the Jubilee year. And then the moment Jubilee was over, October 7th, we had that event in Israel. So it's kind of a year to hold off and allow things to just be in a more positive energy, usually because before that is over, things can get a little strange. So if we align this with the Satoshi concept from a more esoteric perspective, that puts us in March 2025 for there to be something strange to happen, in my opinion, right before entering Jubilee. So I'll get to that in other videos, but for now, we want to stay on track here with this, what I'm investing in special. So we already talked a little bit about the Jubilee, talked a little bit about the timing. Although I do see a deeper correction happening in 2025 because I brought up this idea of the Jubilee tied to Satoshi and how that's a very positive thing in many ways. I do see a deeper correction in 2025. I'm still bullish though on Q1 and Q3 of 2025, specifically for Bitcoin and the crypto market, with emphasis on Q1 for the overall crypto market, including altcoins. And if you want to know more about that, I cover it thoroughly in the Crypto Decoding Blueprint. It's my newest project I've released. You guys get the biggest discount for being here in our mastermind community. That Crypto Decoding Blueprint comes out at like just a little over $100 after applying the promo code. So it's my most affordable project I've released for how much value it's packed with. And it's a short and sweet, really quick blueprint to get through, something you could do pretty fast. Combining that with my exit strategy blueprint, you'd have a very powerful combo for being on target, on track during this bull run that we're in now. So getting back to this, since it's the what I'm investing in special, we don't want to take up too much time on the decoding stuff because I have a lot of charts to review, but I do want to just recap the date that I mentioned during the last red pill, which was August 30th. So just going to quickly recap this. And if you have not watched the last red pill, if you're new here, perhaps definitely go check it out because it was packed full of a lot of other key pieces of information regarding the decoding stuff that I'm not going to touch on today, just for the sake of timing. But we have August 30th, which is actually 82 days before Joe Biden's 82nd birthday, as you can see here. And it lands on an 82 double-digit date numerology. So we have 382s. We have 82 days before Joe Biden's 82nd birthday, landing on an 82 date numerology. It's very wild synchronicity. So keep that date in mind, especially for U.S. politics, specifically Joe Biden and this upcoming presidential election. I'm not calling for it to be like Joe Biden's death day or anything like that. It's just me showing you the code, the way this is all syncing up. And we already know that he's not running for president anymore. It's Kamala. No, so there's this new narrative that's kind of actually something that I called out on the world stage before it actually happened. I think could scroll down a little bit through my X account and we could find something in regards to this. And yeah, it was right here. It was on July 18th. So it was before Biden got taken out of the picture. We just got to see how that all goes, because if that is the case, this 9/11 ritual could be playing out. But anyway, we want to get back to our podcast today. So we don't have another FOMC meeting until about a month from today on September 18th. And I just bring this up because I've been getting a lot of questions about it. And I feel it's fair for me to just say that, you know, a lot of analysts are talking about the first rate cut of the year. I personally do not have much to add to this, especially since going back to the end of last year, so many big financial channels were talking about Fed policy for 2024 and how we were going to crash this year. And it was the end of the bull run in Q3 of 2023. And then the event with Israel and Hamas happened on October 7th, 2023 last year. And all of those same analysts and financial channels actually doubled down on that thesis. And well, look at what happened. I mean, if you look at the NASDAQ, for instance, you turn off all the noise. I mean, this was Q3 into Q4 of 2023, and we've had a significant rally since. Now, I'm not here to be calling people wrong. It's just they didn't know about the esoteric side of this. So, Year of the Dragon, it's rarely a crash, rarely, especially by September. I mean, I do understand 2000 was a very unique situation. 2000, though, wasn't just a Year of the Dragon. It was a Shemitah year. We're not in a Shemitah now, which is a big reason why I was confident to anticipate a bull run most of 2024. And here we are. So that's why I'm not putting too much prana into this first rate cut thing that the Fed will be planning to do with the next FOMC meeting. I just thought it was fair to bring it up. But yeah, I don't want to put too much belief in that being the end of this rally. If you look at last year, for instance, with the traditional markets, especially when you look at the crypto market, you saw that after the October solar eclipse of 2023, the entire market pretty much moved up in a straight line until the Great American Eclipse of 2024 this year. And that eclipse marked the pivot for a corrective phase for the crypto market. It's kind of important to remind people that that's what rules this market. So I'm not going to get shaken out by this exoteric conversation around rate cuts. I'm not ignoring it. It's kind of boring to me to talk about that stuff. And you get it all from the other channels anyways. And I know you come here for something a little bit more interesting. So anyways, lately, after the last FOMC meeting, as you can see, the S&P and the Dow Jones have both recovered within about 2% of their local highs. I mean, look at this recovery. It's pretty incredible. So this also aligns perfectly with the September full moon on September 17th, because we have Fed Chair Powell speaking the following day on the 18th. So my intuition says it's likely that we actually continue up into new all-time highs for the traditional markets into the next FOMC meeting. And that's something we've also seen quite a bit with the Year of the Dragon analysis. And one thing I've shown you all in a couple podcasts was the way that the market likes to slightly correct into the US elections, which is in early November. And I reviewed this during the Year of the Dragon analysis for the S&P. A great example was 2012. Let me quickly see if I could bring this up so you guys have a visual. So yeah, we have 2012. We're looking at the S&P chart. You see we topped out around September after making higher highs, which was kind of like a bull trap effectively because we had this crown top, which led to a deeper correction in November. And one thing that's interesting about this is these were the elections about a week prior. And if you go to the date of this pivot, it was right on a solar eclipse. So, yeah, I mean, November 14th was a total solar eclipse. And then after that eclipse, the market recovered. It broke out bullish into the Year of the Snake. And we were at all-time highs by January, a couple months right after that. And even entered price discovery. I mean, look at this fucking incredible rally the following year. So I'm not saying we're going to repeat that exactly, but I do believe this is important to bring up because there's alignment with a lot of the things for Q1 specifically of 2025. And then we have the fact that 2012, this chart we're looking at now, was the only Year of the Dragon that Bitcoin traded during in its whole history, because of course it's a newer asset. As opposed to the S&P, it has over 100 years of data. But with Bitcoin, we do have a Year of the Dragon that we could look back on back in 2012. Let me quickly show you what was going on there. And I hope you guys are having an amazing weekend so far. What a week it's been. So we have the Year of the Dragon right here. You have this November timeframe right here, and you could see what Q4 kind of positioned into Q1 in 2013 looked like. This would sync up with our Q1 2025, which is about 4 months away, given the esoteric, talking about the Chinese zodiac. So I'll continue to update you all on that as we progress through the months, of course. But for now, I have this entire cycle covered thoroughly in several videos of my crypto decoding blueprint, as I mentioned earlier. And for anyone who's invested in that new crypto decoding blueprint, I greatly appreciate your support. It really means the world to me. And I know you're going to get a ton of value out of that. But now let's move into these charts. Traditional technical analysis starting with Bitcoin. But before I do that, let's just quickly recap my portfolio as it stands. I just wanted to kind of quickly get that out of the way because we have a lot of charts to cover, but I know you guys are interested. So my portfolio at this time is around 30% Bitcoin, 14 to 15% XRP, about 12 to 13% Ethereum, making up close to about 60% of my entire portfolio between those three positions. And then the other 40% or so is a venture capital bag of about 20 miscellaneous altcoins. We'll be covering them all in a moment. All of those 20 positions range from about 1 to 5%, a couple at 5%, but not many, and a majority of them being around 2 to 3%. About half of those positions, so like 10 of those 20 positions, are right around a 2% allocation, which is what I prefer for a venture capital play. So what venture capital means is it's money that I'm not really worried about losing, so it's in speculative altcoins. It's stuff that if it went to zero, it's just a small enough amount in my overall portfolio that it wouldn't break my heart, but it's the type of plays that have a 2,000 to 5,000% potential to the upside given price discovery, and a lot of them don't even need to go into price discovery to get a 2,000% profit. So that is why I'm playing them small, but they're in a large enough kind of amount of the total portfolio, you know what I mean? Like 40% is venture capital, to where I will be able to walk away from this bull run in a very nice position, given we do have an alt season. So I'm not fully in Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin is part of my long-term vision. I also have a 10% position in gold, physical gold, but I don't really call that part of my portfolio that I just shared with you because I don't really plan to sell that gold. There's also Bitcoin that I don't plan to sell. So I'm just talking to you about the stuff that I do plan to actually make moves with for this bull run. Obviously, I would only want to talk about the things that I'm planning to take action with. And you should all figure out what's your long-term stuff, the stuff that you kind of look at as the replacement for what you call retirement. If you like that, if you like looking at things that way. And, you know, there's other things that you can do, which I have done myself, such as a crypto SEP IRA. That's awesome. Park some Bitcoin in that. I parked some Solana in that because I did make a new venture capital play in Solana, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. But yeah, there's plenty of things you could do. Of course, I'm a US citizen, so I can't be giving you any advice for the country that you reside in. You know, WatersAbove is a global community. There's people all around the world. If you have any questions or any, you know, concerns or ideas about this sort of thing, that's what's so awesome about our Discord. Go ahead and ask questions. There's members likely in your country as well, and they're willing to help. So let's get into this Bitcoin chart. We're looking at this index, Bitcoin index chart. We're going to be starting off with the weekly analysis. I want to be turning off the drawings and just kind of looking at the candles for now. Last week, I mentioned it'd be ideal for us to hold the 34 exponential moving average, and that's this red colored moving average right here. And that ended up being the case. I also mentioned in that podcast, if we were to close above 61,500, that would be impressive, but it wasn't an expectation, especially with the fact that we all knew we were moving into the 33rd week of the year, which, by the way, we had a huge event on the 14th of August, which was during the 33rd week of the year. I had this decode that I shared over here on X. You could go ahead and follow me over at WatersAbove on X if you'd like. Just make sure you're spelling it correctly, ABVE. You take out the O. And I also shared it over on the Discord as well. So we had this event. I'm not entirely sure just yet if it's a pure blown distraction, but I do think what it's doing is it's pointing to the upcoming solar eclipse in October. I shared all my thoughts on this also in yesterday's live stream, so I'm not going to be spending time talking about that today, but that's why I didn't expect us to have like a super bullish 33rd week of the year, and I didn't really have any expectation for us to close above that $61,500 level or the 21 EMA. I was just really trying to emphasize that holding the 34 EMA is what matters a lot, especially if we are to have any short-term corrections. And because we had the full moon and the August 16th through 19th pattern for Bitcoin, which we're not out of the woods just yet. We have tomorrow, of course. But yeah, that was the purpose of bringing up that analysis and trying to time it. So we've been really damn, good at. And I'm not trying to like take any credit here or anything. I'm keeping my mind open. I'm keeping my intuition open. I'm really trying to use all of these tools we have here and not be emotional in the process. So it's beautiful to see how we've been able to time this market and combine it with the exoteric technical analysis as well. So we had this close above the 34 EMA. Of course, closing above the 34 EMA would be good for this week as well. We would like it to hold that for the weekly coming in a couple hours. And of course, closing above 60K would be better. But from a more technical perspective, it's important that we recover above this 21 EMA, which is the orange moving average, especially before the end of this month. And you could check in on the bi-weekly close. So we have the bi-weekly here. We are looking like we're flagging like a crazy bull flag that's now kind of coming to its finality, I believe. And then I would like us to close off before this, on this next week. Would it be the next week? Yeah. So the next week we have a bi-weekly close. I would like us to get above this 13 EMA, and then that would synchronize with the weekly analysis, 21 EMA. Okay. So like above 60,500 for next week's close would be awesome to get back above all these key moving averages on a macro candle closure, such as the bi-weekly. And definitely before the end of this month. I really would not like to see Bitcoin closing below 60K in August. Okay, so we have to consider that. And then you could consider the Mercury retrograde analysis, which I've spoke about quite a bit last week. So check that out. But just a quick reminder, if I go to the daily chart, I turn on the drawings. I'm going to turn off these moving averages. This red box is Mercury retrograde. And it's very typical that whatever the first day of Mercury retrograde closes at is where we close off at the end of Mercury retrograde. So it's flat. And that also aligns well with the Bitcoin seasonality chart, which you can see right here. It shows August is a flat month. And that's another reason why I wouldn't be shocked if in the final days of this month after Mercury retrograde, so we have Mercury retrograde potentially closing between 58 to 60K. On a daily, but then on those final couple days of the month after Mercury stations direct, which would be like August 27th through, the 31st? Do we get a 31st this month? Yes, we do. So during those 3 to 4 days, I wouldn't be shocked if those days are very bullish for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin was to open up the month of September like right around 65K, because that's where we close the month of August or the month of July, making the month of August our typical flat month. So if we followed this pattern to the T, it would be around a 64K monthly close for August, then moving up into the September new moon on September 2nd, correct? And then we could even have a pump into 70K around that time frame, like around the first week of September. So even though the Bitcoin seasonality chart shows September being the only red month for Bitcoin, we also need to bring up the fact that during the last year of the dragon in 2012, again synchronizing the Chinese zodiac, September was a green month for Bitcoin in 2012. It was also a green month for Bitcoin in 2016, which was after that halving. And we've had a lot of similarities with 2016 and 2017 cycle so far. So I think that's important to bring up. And it was also the case for last year. September closed green last year. So it doesn't need to be a red month. It just happens to be that case historically. And I'm letting you know. So my opinion on this, everything I just stated was fact. I'm letting you know my opinion now. I'd maybe consider September to be red under one condition. And that would be if Bitcoin has a crazy pump into this upcoming monthly close. So if we can make it through this full moon tomorrow and just rage to the upside and get to 70K before the end of this month, then I'd definitely be open-minded for the traditional red September. Or a flat month for September at least. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Because that requires a more thorough analysis, of course, and we're still here in August, and I want to take things one step at a time. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. And, I've already shared my thesis on October solar eclipse and into Q1 with the Q1 of 2025 with the first lunar eclipse of our lunar cycle in March 2025. I've covered this so many times now. So, again, taking it one thing at a time. I don't want to confuse anyone. Now, let's finish off this Bitcoin analysis quickly with just reviewing our moving averages on the daily chart. Quickly bring those up. So we did get back to this 200 exponential moving average, which is this green moving average you're seeing right here. We're holding flat around it, which was the case last month as well. We did have what people call a death cross, which is the 55 below the 200 simple moving average. But I brought this up already, how we had this last year too in September. And you can see we were sideways for a little bit, and then this followed by an amazing recovery. So I wouldn't get too scared or worried about this quote unquote death cross right now, because there's several instances where it's the complete opposite. There's no death about it at all. It's a very positive thing, by the way. And it's a big reason why I don't call this stuff out. You're going to see this on a lot of traditional TA channels, but this is not a traditional asset. We're looking at Bitcoin. This is moving completely different than everything else. But anyways, getting back to this, it's not that I like seeing this cross anyways. It's just typically after we see it, it's like the best times to get in. At least that's the pattern that I've been noticing the most. We are in a slight recovery phase at this time, but we can't call it such until we clear this July high, which was right there into the monthly close of July, somewhere about 68,500. And we have about 10K to go before returning back to those levels. So we are in a lower highs and lower lows trend right now. And we can't really call it a full-blown trend reversal until we break below 40K. That would be less likely. And it's another thing I brought up during my crypto decoding blueprint, how it's more likely that we enter price discovery than start a trend reversal and into a bear market below 39K. But now that we got that out of the way, let's turn off these moving averages here and just look at our EMAs. And we're clearly flipped where we have the 34 above the 13. So this is in a more bearish posture for now, and we're getting rejections on these moving averages right now, which was the case back in July. It was also the case during this phase over here. And now we need to see how this, from a more macro perspective, holds up, which means the upcoming monthly close. So there's not too much that we could do here for the daily. And why? Why, Waters? Well, we've been ranging for 6 months. So we're range bound. There's no new data I could possibly add. We just need to look at the support and the resistance. So we'll finish off with that. We have a resistance here still at the 71,500 level, and we have a monthly support sitting here on 61. Naturally, we would want to close above 71. And as I told you, we closed the month of July off at around 64,500, which would get us right into this range right here, which is above this 618. That's nice. So if we can get back into the golden pocket into our monthly close, that would look really solid. But until then, yeah, we're just kind of at the lower end of the range, holding on the 382 fib. We've already had our bounce plus daily closes above the 236, and can't really offer too much more information on that. We're going to kind of go fast over Ethereum just because there's not too much to add for that either. We are now at a lower end of the range and trading around like where Bitcoin was after Bitcoin's ETF was approved. Note the ETF approvals were recently for ETH, and we've had a much bigger pullback since. So The apex predator or the market maker, they love to do this kind of stuff, right? They get everyone sucked in. They get you feeling like it's going to be the event is what causes more bullish price action, but it's always sold off after. And that was the case for this, of course. Now ETH is in a weird position because this structure is completely invalidated, and this closing below this January 24th level would look horrible. So we really want a quick recovery on ETH, and this would be Ethereum's spring. So we would have buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally, failed double top kind of essence. And then here with this bull trap followed by that lower third drive of lower highs, you have your spring. Okay. The spring is like the bloodiest, most horrible moment, but it gets bought back up quickly. And really what you want to see is a recovery back above $3,000 in this case. Then you would be calling that the test. And then after the test, you have something called an SOS, which that would take getting all the way back to like 3,800. So we have a ways to go. It's a 40%, almost 50% move. Until then, it's kind of the same story as Bitcoin. It's just, it's not so good to be seeing us trading so low right now on ETH. If ETH can get back above 3,000, hopefully before the fourth solar eclipse, I think this will look a little bit more positive. But until then, man, like we just entered back into the previous trading range. Bitcoin didn't even spend any time in the previous trading range. It bounced immediately after backtesting it on a wick. Yeah, so this is a little bit precarious. It's not the best situation, but this is, again, kind of something that altcoins love to do before we go into the next phase of the bull run. It's like a deeper correction followed by a spring out to liquidate. So we're going to quickly look at XRP, and we have this weekly chart over here. You guys know a lot about this chart now. We're in phase 5. So far, phase 5, we're in the middle, and that's about as much as we can update. We've talked about this a million times now, how we had no expectation that the end of this SEC Ripple case would cause price appreciation. I've always been very clear and transparent for years now that we need Bitcoin price discovery. That's clearly the case, as XRP sits at 57 cents today, lower than where it was on the day that the first big win happened for Ripple, with XRP no longer being deemed a security. And now here we are, and the case is over and we're lower. So yeah, we can't really update too much because this horizontal trading range has been in play now for 500 days and we're still there. So this isn't me being bearish. As I said earlier, when I revealed my portfolio to you, it's my second biggest position. In that being said, I have a very detailed exit strategy for this project. I even sold a bunch of my XRP back here in July when it moved up into this 90 cent range. Some of you might remember that. So this is not like a forever hold for me. I'm very in and out of this project as the years go. I don't think there's been a single year where I did not make a big play on this. So I'm going to continue to be a trader of XRP. And that's been something I've also been saying for 3 years, that this is a trader's coin. So now that we've come and we've experienced this moment, I hope it gets people to see the method to my madness and the purpose of this whole thing. And everything I've just shared is not me being bearish. I'm not negative about any of it. It's just, as a technical analyst and actual investor, I see things for what they are. There's no emotions here. We need Bitcoin to go into price discovery, and then this thing will look pretty glorious. So moving on to Solana, also holding this this current trading range, I should call it the horizontal trading range, for 160 days. So it's looking very similar to Bitcoin, actually. I'm going to open it up on this chart, actually. Turn off my indicators. Great. I don't think I have anything on this chart right now. That's awesome. So we're going to be pulling a fib. Isn't it insane that this thing lost like 98% of its value, right? Mamma mia. Yeah, 97% correction. I'm going to double click, make sure that I am on a logarithmic chart. I sure am. And we're not going to be doing a full thorough analysis on every single project because we have a lot to cover. So we're just going to be kind of rapidly moving through them and sharing any key points, any unique things that I could, pass along the way. Now, we're kind of doing the same thing as Bitcoin, where there's like this bull flag kind of forming, but it's looking really good for Solana. The fact that we're right around the 888 fib and sandwiched between that and the 786. So what that means in plain English is we broke above the golden pocket, and now we're back testing the golden pocket, which is very nice to see before moving on to the next phase of the bull run. So we might actually see Solana break out into price discovery in synchronicity with Bitcoin, meaning Solana has been a way better play than ETH. With no ETF, with none of that shit going on. And I want to be very transparent with everyone. I think Solana is an absolute scam. I think everything that's built on it is a scam. I don't believe that it's this solution to anything. I think the people that are running Solana are picked by the New World Order. They're puppets, okay? So I'm not investing in this thing because of some personal thing that I find to be good, or it's none of that. It's just crypto, guys. Like, that's what this all is. It's fairy dust. Don't get emotional. Don't get attached. Don't sit around thinking that one thing is better than the other, because that happened to a lot of people in the last cycle. A lot of people were so pro one thing that they missed out on the other thing. And I've matured a lot over my couple of years that I've been in this position where I'm like, wow, my outlook on this really matters because a lot of people are tuning into my art. And I've become much better at investing over these years. I've become much better at analyzing markets over these years, much better decoder over these years. And as I refine and refine and refine, I have less and less emotions and opinions about this stuff. And I just kind of try to remove all the other noise, all the static, and get to signal. So we can see the performance on this project is very solid. It's not something to sleep on. I think we're a little bit high right now in price for me to usually feel comfortable investing in something like this. Like, you guys hear me all the time say, I don't love investing in stuff around the golden pocket, especially if it's above the golden pocket, but I made an exception for Solana because I feel that we at least have a lot more juice in the fruit of this bull run. Maybe in the next bull run, I'll change my stance on Solana. But for now, that's how I feel. So the fact that we've come up above the golden pocket, we're back testing it, and we've been holding it now for some time, this is looking pretty good. Obviously, we need to clear this upper range, which is sitting at $200. That could be a psychological thing for Solana. And then the next big price to the upside would be somewhere around almost $2,000 potentially. But we'd want to look to this 4236, which sits about 1,000. And that is more comfortable for me to say, because I think 1,000 would probably be in alignment with a potential 10K ETH. And yeah, from where we're sitting at right now to a 10,000 Solana. Sorry, a $1,000 Solana is about a 600% move. So not the craziest upside move, but as I said, I put this in my crypto SEP IRA, so getting 600% in that would be madness. And I don't plan on selling that, so that's like long-term as well. But we'll have to see, because as an esoteric analyst, I really need to feel into a couple things, and I'm not feeling the greatest about the middle of 2025, and I'm definitely not feeling so good about 2026 right now based on my long-term analysis. So I will do what is best for me as we progress. Let's move on to Avalanche. It's another new venture capital play for me. Great. So this moved up, as you can see, all the way to the 702 fib. Then after getting rejected off the 702 fib, it has come down to essentially backtest the 236. So I like to see that. That's about as deep as these mid-cycle corrections get. It was a 73% correction. Like I've taught you many times, 70 to 80% is about what you see with a mid-cycle correction. So that's 2 checkpoints. Below the 382 at this time, another check, because as you can see in this horizontal trading range, that's where we've peaked a lot before going into the lower end of the range. And now we're just back testing it. And we're back testing it and holding it on support. You see right here, this parabolic advance for Avalanche kind of gets canceled out right around that 382, and then it comes back to hold this red line. Now we've returned back to it, but when we look further to the left, we can see all these key points it was getting rejected at was the same level, around $20. So that's nice to see, in my opinion. We're kind of in this phase right now. the deeper mid-cycle corrective phase. So you see this crown top right here where we went up straight line, formed a crown top, a distributional top, and then let's look at the pullback. I bet this was even deeper, probably 80 something percent. Okay, we have 84%, but if I was to pull off of here around this level, yeah, we're about 70 to 80%. I think that's very similar. This move here is similar to this move here, and then this correction right here, the depth of it is very similar as well. So we're in this, we're finishing up this, and then what you see after that is a 1,400% move to the upside. So even if this asset only makes it back to its prior all-time highs, that's about a 600% move without price discovery. And then I would assume this thing would be breaking into the multiple hundreds of dollars. I'm not entirely sure about 800 on this 1618 on logarithmic, but when we look at it on linear, 600 is in the cards for sure. And then that would be a move of about 2,500%, which is kind of what I see most of the time when I'm analyzing these altcoins. It's like 2,000 to 3,000 is the sweet spot of these extremes in the data of where we're anticipating things to go, especially in price discovery. And then you'll see some plays later on that have already sold off a lot, so much to the point that just recovering to prior all-time highs is about a 2,000% move. Now we're moving on to Proppy. This was another kind of play that, I got into after it's already a little bit higher than I feel comfortable with. But I do have a thesis that the tokenization of a lot of things is underway. Tokenization of real estate is clearly a huge opportunity here. Proppy is one of those plays. I don't think it's the king of kings when it comes to this particular concept or idea of tokenizing real estate, but they're a player in the game, and that's good enough. So there is a venture capital thesis for this, and that's why I've decided to play this. But what we could bring up now is that we've come almost up to prior all-time highs and have broke through all of this golden pocket now. Come back up to the golden pocket, got rejected off the 618, which is the bottom of the range, and this could very well head below $1 soon into this 95-cent range, about the 0.5 fib. That right there is an area of interest. You can clearly see over here with about 3 months of rejections before it head into the next leg lower of the bear market. That could be underway, especially if there was any weird shit going down with Bitcoin, or if something weird happened isolated to Proppy. Of course, there's always that possibility. But around where it's at now is a pretty good buy, I believe, just based on the way that it's come down to this level in these prior attempts. The only difference is we don't have a whole lot of chart history, so it's hard to bet on this, and that's why it's probably even less than 1% of my portfolio. It's probably like 0.8% allocation. So I'm just dabbling. Let's move on to Doge, which is actually one of my bigger plays now. Doge sits at about 4 to 5% of my portfolio. I know it sounds crazy, but it's based off of the fact that we've hit the 1618 in the prior two cycles. You can see this cycle, which started, the horizontal trading range started in the beginning of 2014, and it ended in the beginning of 2018. Then you have this cycle ending around Q2 2021. It hyperextended past the 1618. This one perfectly hit the 1618. And with the 1618 here at about $4, that doesn't sound absurd. Considering that we got to about 70 cents in the last cycle, I don't think that's the craziest thing ever. Let's look at about how much higher from the prior all-time high we went, 3,700%. And then from here, not nearly as much, right? About 700%. This would be about 400%. So I think, yes, the $3 to $4 Doge is in the cards. It would make sense being one of the top coins that the memery is still going on. I mean, it's not going to get as much prana as some other memes will, but it's the tried and true meme. So I wasn't going to sit out completely on it. It's not the biggest position of my portfolio, but it's up there, that 4 to 5%. I would say that it's enough for, if we do get that move to about $3, that this would be an incredible play. But I'm not banking on it to be doing anything much more than that, because I don't think the antics of Elon Musk are going to work this time around. You know, that worked really well in 2021, especially with that C19 environment that everyone was in, where everyone just wanted to speculate. It's not as normal right now to see that level of speculation because the world's back and open again. Hyperinflation is way crazier. People need to use their money wiser right now. There's not as much of that like gambling mentality, I don't think. You know, I can't speak for everyone. Of course, there's always going to be that, but it seems to be that people are so squeezed right now with hyperinflation that they're not going to be willing to speculate as much unless, you know, we really do see a crazy alt season, which that's really dependent on how much Bitcoin goes up on the first leg into price discovery. So what we're seeing right now, I got a couple trend lines. I know this is looking a little confusing, but we had one ray out to where we recently got rejected down from it. And then we've back tested this trend line right here, this falling trend line, which is steeply falling. So let's see, have we gotten about a 70% correction? Close, 64% correction on Doge. So that's a big enough mid-cycle correction. Wouldn't be anything weird for this project that's done that many times. It kind of tells me though that, you know, getting into a recovery soon would be healthy because we've hit the 236 already. So I don't think we have much more room to the downside on this just based off of this macro fib pull. And we would be looking very good if we could get back above the 382, which would break above these July highs. I do see that in synchronicity with a 70K Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin could get to 70K, it would not shock me to see 14-cent Doge again. And then that would be more into the recovery essence. And it's still yet to get to the golden pocket. So yeah, I mean, when it got to the golden pocket or if you look at the last cycle, this just raged straight into the 888 fib. And in this cycle, we broke like literally parabolically into all-time highs. Like we didn't even spend any time trading back there. So yeah, if that's going to be the case for this cycle, you see this mid-cycle correction here was very, very, very deep, 83% before finishing off. That right there is something that I feel could be the case for February, March of 2025. So like we see Bitcoin rise into the end of the year, into Q1 of 2025. And then Bitcoin has a correction in like April, you know, like starting in March, goes into April, perhaps into May, and it could create a really devastating pullback for altcoins too. And then there is still room for another move to the highs, to higher highs at the end of 2025. So this cycle concept is very much in my mind, and I will update you more as I, you know, kind of sort it all out. But in the meantime, I think that this backtest on the 236 was good. It's healthy. We've reset all of the things that you'd want to reset during a mid-cycle correction, and now it's time to start the recovery phase. Got some quick words on Stellar Lumens because it's basically going to follow XRP, but we can see right here we had this major trend line that we've been back testing and kind of like snaking around, and it's coming to its apex here by the beginning of October. And this trend line is not the most perfect trend line on earth, but it's kind of the end of the all-time high bull trap, final rejection before going lower on this first rally up post C19 crash at the end of 2020, and then breaking below it into what we call the bear market. You can see the way that Stellar Lumens is respecting both of these trend lines that are reaching this apex by October. And XLM is in buy territory actually because it's below the 236. So if you looked at where it's at compared to the last alt season, that's a 700% move. And then if you take it to the prior all-time highs, that's an 800% or almost 900% move. So not even going into price discovery, there's a chance at an 800% move to just get back to prior all-time highs. And it's effectively done it in 2021. Why couldn't it do it again? So yeah, this is, I'm not telling you to buy it, but it's in that like buy zone right now because it's so low. You know, it's really down there. And it's going to ride the coattails of the XRP move. So once XRP follows Bitcoin after price discovery, I do think XLM is going to ride behind. So got Algorand, little position in this, really low. Wow. It's as low as the C19 levels. And The big kind of idea here is playing venture capital is super risky, especially on the stuff that has a narrative behind it. And I know this ISO 222 narrative has become like memed to shit over the past 2 years. A lot of timing around that was people being led into it falsely, and it became too much of the investment thesis. And for me, it's been a part of my investment thesis, but I'm not fully banking on any of that stuff. So, yeah, these types of projects you really want to be careful with. I wouldn't put too much in it. I've been very vocal about that, but we do have a 2,000% move to just get back to the alt season highs. That's how down it is right now. It's in a very similar situation to XLM. So consider that. Probably going to be a similar analysis for our next one, which is XDC network. This thing has moved all the way back to these red lines that I've had on these charts. Wow. Crazy to see. This thing has pretty much almost backtested its first cycle all-time high in April. But if you look at the performance of XDC, this is amazing. Going off of this horizontal trading range right here at the lows, all the way up to its 1618 was a 34,000% move. So look at how from where we're at right now to that prior all-time high that I just mentioned, this would be a 600 to 700% move. And then just getting back into price discovery. I don't know if it can make it up to close to $1, but the trick we always do, 4236, it's sitting around 76 cents. This is an XCoin too. So again, it's going to follow like in a basket with XRP. A lot of things are banking on the XRP move, clearly. We do have a major trend line though that got touched here and then broke below, rejected off of the retest, and then multiple back tests before moving into buying climax. Then at the end of your bear market, tapped on your selling climax again, and then right here when we broke below it, this started going to shit. So this is an unfortunate thing to watch happen because it shows you that it's respecting this trend line quite a bit, and that's putting it into a very, very bearish energy at this time. But what do we say? You know, buy the blood, buy the boredom. So this is really in a bloody phase right now. Probably a lot of people panicking who are holding large amounts of this, and it's been the case coming back to the beginning of Q1 this year. That's probably the end of the capitulation phase, I'd assume. I don't know how much lower this can go. This is 80%, a 75% mid-cycle correction. So it's more than enough. So in a buy, more buy than not. Hedera. H-bar. Okay, wow. Broke below the 236. We're right there in the bear market horizontal trading range. Again, more in a buy essence. Back testing this major trend line though, which is nice to see. So clearly a lot of energy around this trend line over here when it started, coming back into it at the end of the bear market, squeezing another rejection lower high, and then breaking above it. Finally, we back tested it. So given that this had a 74, you see, like all of these mid-cycle corrections have been very, very similar percentages. So they're going to rise in similar percentages too. But now that we back tested that, that's looking pretty good, especially getting back below the 236 into the horizontal trading range and almost 1,000% to get back to all-time highs. So more in the buy zone as well. Very similar chart. Heading into Polygon Matic. Where do I have that? Oh man, big triangle pattern, broke out, got back below the 236. This is pretty insane to watch because it's in its spring phase now. So you had your buying climax back here, you had your selling climax over here, automatic rally, low onto the 236. Then there was a fake out here because it was a lower high. So you have 3 drives of lower highs. And then you had your break below the 236, which we're in now. So this should be about as low as it gets. This is a very clean horizontal trading range now. And it was really weird to see a move all the way up into the 702 back in February 2023. You know, very weird. But hey, that's how it goes. So this project is much, much higher than where it was during the C19 crash, whilst what we just looked at a little bit ago with like Algorand, it's trading pretty much down here where it was during the C19 crash. This thing's 3,700% above. So we really kind of want to hold these two white lines, which you can see formed back in March 2021, back at this selling climax low, and we've gotten pretty damn close, around 30 cents recently. We want to hold those two lines. Why? Because there's thin air between 30 cents and 3 cents. That'd be devastating. I don't think that it will trail all the way back down there, but really kind of at the end of this move. And then, we could extend this trend line now a little bit deeper now that we've broke through the pattern. And then we would see how the kickback goes. Because on these kickbacks, that's when we get out of this boredom / bloody phase and moving into recovery. So keep the 702 in mind for Matic. Got about $1.50. Plenty of room to go until we get up there. And then this 28 cent level is very crucial, because we break below that, it could get a lot worse. Again, venture capital, play it safe. We're looking at Multiverse X, EGLD, another X coin. Wow, okay. Crazy what altcoins do when things get bearish. When things get bullish momentarily, everything pumps really fast. And then when it sells off, the sell-offs can go for a lot longer than anyone's comfortable to sit through. Two rejections at the 382, broke below the 236. Where are we at on this mid-cycle correction? Again, around 70%. Let me make this trend line a little bit. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good. Yeah. Mamma mia, we're like in the spring of this too, so lots of springs going on. It's like the mattress store, lots of springs. This is pretty crazy to see. It's basically at its selling climax lows. It's at its bear market lows. So recovery back to all-time highs is almost 2,000%. I brought this up a little bit earlier, pretty crazy. Not too much to report on. That's much different than what I shared before. But unfortunately, I do think if this one wanted to break down a little bit lower, it has thin air until $13, $14. And then if it really wanted to sink lower, you got $7. So when we're talking about altcoins, guys, it could really get fucked, like really, really bad. It's not something we bank on to wait and wait and wait. That's why we play venture capital, because you get in when it's exaggerated, but you can't just not position yourself at all. Otherwise you miss the train, right? So I am playing the game, not letting the game play me, but I wouldn't go all in on this thing. Gotta stay cautious. But not too much to report on this right now. It's not much different than the other charts. Let's look at Jupiter. All right. Not the cleanest place to pull the fib, but we do have a horizontal range to play with. This is looking pretty good. Multiple rejections at the golden pocket. We're kind of trading around the 236. Been holding this level now for, I would say, it's 2 months. We have this key level of the 0.5 fib, and then of course we have the golden pocket. So once this could get back above $1.30, which isn't too far from here, that's where you would see the SOS, or a sign of strength, and then this would be looking pretty good. But for now, it looks like this was your AR. It's kind of in a test right now, but it's too little data. So I can't speak too much on Jupiter because we only have chart history that goes back to the beginning of this year. Again, venture capital play. And I am sticking to like the $3 to $4 level on the upside. And that would probably align with Bitcoin somewhere around 90K. It would only take a little bit for this to get up there. And that's not a whole lot. That's not a whole lot to the upside, but playing on the esoteric of Jupiter and the symbolism of this year, which also next year has symbolism too, to talk about with the Year of the Snake. Again, in my crypto decoding blueprint, I did the Year of the Snake decoded preview. So I gave you a lot of juicy information in preparation for when I'll be releasing the full decode of the Year of the Snake here on Patreon in January of next year. So Jupiter kind of plays a role in that. We got this green symbolism, serpent symbolism, snake symbolism, also tied into the Year of the Dragon. We'll see how things go. But technically right now, it's just at this support and kind of want to hold this 67 cent range. If we start to close dailies below that, we could effectively come back below 50 cents into where it kind of launched, which you don't want to see, but it's a wide enough trading range of what's possible and not enough trading not enough chart history, so you can't really be confident. Let's go to Chainlink. Wow. Chainlink broke below 2. Broke below the 382. Some people would want to look at this like a head and shoulders. Sure, that's what you want to call it. But I love this back test on the 236. Okay, this is cool because you see this horizontal trading range we had here, pretty tight range. It lasted almost 2 years, somewhere between $6 and $9. We broke out above it really, really dramatically into the golden pocket. Then we got rejected at the bottom of the golden pocket. And now we've back tested the resistance. So you see when I hold my cursor here and start to scroll sideways, how many times we got rejected at this 236 level? Well, we've just back tested it. So that's super fucking bullish in my opinion. If we broke below the 236, then I would not be so bullish anymore. But the fact that we've come back to this level, and back tested it, and then there was this strong buyback on this wick back above $10 now. This is looking pretty good. So I think that probably as deep as it should get, and that would be in alignment with a lot of things that I've shared about Bitcoin. By the way, all the things I said a couple minutes ago about these much more lower targets on these speculative altcoins, it's not like I'm calling for that. I'm just letting you know, like, don't be closed-minded to isolated situations happening. Like if something weird happened with the Matic team, the Polygon team, then of course you can see those downside levels that I showed on the chart come to fruition, maybe for a day or 2 days. But that stuff is possible, guys. It happens all the time with these isolated cryptos. But my overall analysis is that whatever just happened with Bitcoin at this August flash correction, the fact that it did go lower than what happened in July, and the timing of where we are with the upcoming solar eclipse, that should really be it. We should be out of it. But we need to see how September goes because, again, historically, it's a down month for Bitcoin. It would be great to see Bitcoin recover and get to 70K soon, but the market does what the market does. You kind of just have to play the energy. It's a lot more I have a lot more confidence after the October solar eclipse to anticipate this expansion in Bitcoin, leading into November, December. We got that black moon in December, 2 new moons. But we're in August right now, so we have to see how this all goes. It's pretty crazy, though, to watch how bearish these alts got so quickly. But we'll move on. I like the way that this backtest looks. I would like it to hold this 236. If it starts closing below the 236, I would change my tune. But for now, that's looking pretty awesome. Nice backtest. And yeah, we would want to clear about $17 to $18. This level right here is in alignment with this peak over here, which was the final peak before this thing just cratered into its selling climax. So yeah, I could actually put the level on the chart. Just give it any color at this point. Breaking above 19 would look really good, and then I think we would have what is considered to be our sign of strength phase, and we'd be getting into 30, 40, and so on. Chainlink is definitely a player in my long-term portfolio too. Let's look at Cardano. Oof. Okay, Cardano broke down all the way right between the middle of the 236 and the bottom. We have these lows going back to 24 cents. We're right about 33 cents right now. I could adjust this a little bit, not to be crazy. I think that's fair. We had this end of our selling climax, gravitated up to this trend line. Then when we got back to the trend line again, about so many odd months later, we got rejected slightly, but then it broke out, and now we're back testing it. So the fact that we're back testing right now is looking pretty good, but since we're below the 236, that does not look good. Like one thing cancels out the other. So yeah, we can't really be throwing any parties on this until it breaks above 80 cents. You got the key level. The analysis is pretty straightforward. Another thing that we're seeing is that this was testing the last cycle 702, which was this peak over here before it went into the selling climax. And this was a very clean cycle. You have your buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally, spring. Everything had the spring with the C19 crash, recovery, SOS, back test. This was your backup phase. Very nice. And then it went into the top of the next cycle. Right now, we're like kind of in this really strange pattern where, yeah, we don't want to see a deeper correction than what we got already. Like it would really kind of invalidate a lot of the bullish things that have been going on since the Bitcoin ETFs were approved. And then the timing of it would just be awkward. Unless this cycle is really going to take all the way until Q4 2025, I I don't expect us to take that long before having at least one price discovery phase for Bitcoin. And with this cycle and the year of the dragon, we could have two price discovery surges for Bitcoin. I mean, that wouldn't be weird either. There's a lot of evidence that points to that too, but we'll save that for another podcast. So let's get into Theta. We're going to skip T-Fuel today. There's really no reason to go over T-Fuel or VTHO, but we'll be quickly checking in on Theta right now and then checking in on VeChain. So we got to the 236 on this mid-cycle correction, but now we're below it. This is really, really not the best situation. So hopefully this holds as support for Theta. You could see it was holding as support all back here in May and June throughout the summer of 2022. We got a couple peaks into the $1.20 area all throughout here, and now we've gotten back below it. So 123 around the 236 is a key level for Theta. It's been having a lot of time over here. We did have a very nice surge into March. The full move from the selling climax to the top was about almost 600% move in the middle of the cycle. But yeah, really needs to hold. I would like to see Theta back above 160 soon. That could be in synchronicity with Bitcoin getting back above 64K. But until then, yeah, this has kind of had its mid-cycle correction all the way to 77%. That's pretty rough. So I believe that's enough. Let's see what this one was probably only 60%. Yeah, 67%. So it's not out of the car. It's not out of it's not random. But very similar setup to what was going on before. Theta is probably like a 2% position that I have. The same thing with VeChain. Those are probably 2% positions. The same thing with Cardano, just to let you guys know. We're looking at VeChain right now. Okay, came back up to this 3 cent level, and now it's back below the 236. And this one blue trend, blue horizontal ray is holding. That's nice to see on a back test. We're holding higher lows. Not the most clean looking structure though. It's really not good to be below this 236, but hey man, I mean, we did that back in the C19 crash of 2020, and look what that led to. You know, the deepest part of the correction was what sprang us all the way into the finality of the bear market. So you kind of like with crypto and altcoins in particular, you see the worst before it gets a lot better. You know, that's kind of the case here on VeChain. So holding this 2 cent level is important. Below 0.177, then that would look bad. But for now, this is okay. Getting back above this red trend line, I think is a red horizontal ray is key for VeChain. So we're kind of stuck sandwiched in between the middle of all of that. Quickly check in on Sand. What is going on over here? Wow. Okay, so this is a spring. This is our first example of like a real textbook spring where we had our selling climax, a big rally to the upside of about, not a huge rally, but we made it back up, pretty substantial buyback, and then lately we broke slightly below. And if you see right here, this was in the midst of the first SOS phase for a lot of altcoins. But what a lot of altcoins finished off with at the end of the alt season, not many had a much bigger move, such as Sand, which went on to go up 5,000% between Bitcoin topping out at like 66K over here and 69K, which is only like a little bit of a move. This made a much more dramatic move into the finality of 2021. So it's absolutely crazy. I have a very small position in this, but if we get recovery, it's going just back to the all-time highs is 3,000%, just to get back to prior all-time highs. So it's worth the risk, in my opinion, to have a small amount in this project, just because, I mean, look, if it only gets back to the top of the golden pocket, that's still 1,500%. So like, fuck, right? Crazy move. Not too much more I could say about that though. Now we're going to check in on Aave. Got some logo change. I suppose there's some updates in Aave. Aave had a change during the last cycle too. It used to be called Lend, then it became Aave. One of the craziest bull runs. I mean, I probably always bring this up, but look, 150,000% move to the upside. And with where it's trading at now, getting back to all-time highs, we're looking at about 500%. Not bad. This is one thing that I would expect to go into price discovery as long as everything kind of stays on track. Now, we've been in this horizontal trading range for some time at the lows, not able to breach the 382, but coming back to the 236, holding it and bouncing. So this has been zigzagging a lot lately. So there's not so much I can share because we're range bound effectively. We want to be clearing this March 17 highs, which is the case for a lot of altcoins, and that's about $150, which puts this in a buy territory too. I mean, pretty much everything I've covered is still a buy, by the way. Like, I hope you figured that out by now. But I'm just reiterating that. That's not me telling you what to buy. This is not financial advice. I'm not telling you what to invest in. Do not copy me. But just letting you know what I'm analyzing here, all of these projects are kind of like buying when this project was over here. Yeah, sure, we went lower, but look at the upside potential. It's madness. So yeah, can't add too many words to this besides it's kind of in the buy zone. A lot better position than buying something like up here, which is like the Solana play, for instance. It would be likely that this enters price discovery on some other projects such as Sand that I just covered. I don't think that's going to go into price discovery. I don't see that being the case. But with Aave, I do. I wouldn't be shocked if Aave can make it up to $1,000 this cycle. Let me head over to Cosmos Atom. Wow. Okay, so this spring gets invalidated here. This is your spring. And you can tell because you broke below the selling climax. So that's a real true spring. And we wouldn't have an automatic rally until we get above this level right here. So this is your true automatic rally. And your SOS would have to be getting above this level right here. We are back. Like, look at the progress on this project. It's only been 100% above the C19 crash. So Bitcoin was a better investment. This is not the best thing to see, but it is what it is. So getting back to prior all-time highs, we're looking at about 850% move. Not too shabby, but you know, not the most impressive when it comes to its local trading that it's in right now. 1 second, family. I just have to quickly check in on something. Grab a sip of water. All right, so we're in the spring. This actually looks very similar to Sand. So if you kind of want to consider that analysis that I went over a couple moments ago, kind of gives you an idea of where this sits in regards to that. Yeah, this going into a spring kind of means that it's the worst of the worst, which also is one of the best buying opportunities. So kind of keep that in mind. Now we're going to be looking at, is this even on my charts? Gala. I do believe I have a small position in that. Okay, Gala, in a similar situation to a couple of the other projects we just looked at, had a really nice move up into March. Lately, it's had a 80% mid-cycle correction, coming right back down to the lows. So because it's so low near the absolute cycle lows, of course, this isn't looking so nice, but this is sort of the area where you want to be investing. If you're looking at return back to all-time high, it is 5,000% to the upside. So probably one of the more convincing venture capital plays, given the fact that it's, I mean, what's there to lose, right? Just returning within reason of the last all-time high, maybe even back to just the golden pocket. It's an incredible play, almost 2,000%, only to get to the 786. So not saying that's going to happen 100%, but if we have an alt season, that's sort of what you would anticipate on the minimum side of things regarding Gala. I don't think Gala is going to go into price discovery in this cycle. It's highly unlikely, especially given the performance that it's had lately. It would need an isolated narrative. It would need something specific to it, and that's just not the case, clearly. All right, home stretch, we got Zilliqa. Where's that at? Oh man, broke below the lows. So I don't actually have as much Zilliqa this cycle as I did the last one. It's probably only about like 0.7, 0.8% allocation. Still something to go over though. Wow, cannot believe that it's broke even lower. really, there's no interest in this project clearly, especially I think after these updates with Ethereum and what's going on with Solana and other ecosystems. I just don't think Zilliqa will provide anything that's missing from those other bigger players. I'm glad that I got out a majority of my position back in April 2022. That was a crazy moment. I might not even cover this on the next What I'm Investing in special just because it's such a little position that I have. But needless to say, I mean, if we were to come back up to this 18-cent level, the reason why I bring that up, 18 to 19 cents, is because we had the all-time high back in May 2018 at around 20 cents. Then the alt season of 2021, we were around 20 cents. And then this spike up that we had at the end of March 2022 was around 20 cents. So given where we are right now, coming back to that range, it's a 1,300% move. So not too bad. I would consider that 20 cents in the next alt season for Zilliqa is very possible. And I would definitely sell it all then. I do not plan on holding this long term. Lastly, Polkadot. Wow. We've made it back to the bottom, guys, and this is effectively where this thing launched back in September 2020. So we have a clean touch, and now returning back to it. And I have not adjusted these lines since the last red pill. So this is great that we've made it back here, although we are at the bottom of the horizontal trading range from the bear market. Nothing really to update until this thing could break above $10. And what are we looking at on the upside? Got about 1,000%, and that's great. I mean, shit. People take decades to get these types of moves in the stock market in a lot of positions. So we all know we can make 1,000% in just one single alt season. A lot of projects have a 2,000% opportunity, 5,000%, some 10,000 plus. In the last cycle, look at the Aave example. It went up 150,000%. So that's kind of why I'm being conservative on a lot of these altcoin analysis reviews, is just to look at what it did in the last cycle and kind of call that the initial ceiling, you know? And if we're getting about a 1,000% move, then that's pretty damn nice for something that you're only risking about 1 to 2% of your overall portfolio for an allocation. So Polkadot, again, if we go into price discovery in this next cycle, especially on Polkadot, I will probably be selling it all. That is not a long-term hold for me. I mean, leading into the next alt season, I'd probably be de-risking a majority of all of my altcoins. And I'll be touching on that more when we are there. You know, the What I'm Investing in specials will probably switch in title to like, you know, my exit strategy special or something. And for now, we're in the buy zone. I'm personally probably not going to be adding too much to my portfolio over the next couple months. I'm pretty much, my bags are packed. Not really looking to be risking too much more on this bull run. I would like some more confirmations, but you never know. You know, you might get an update in the Discord seeing me put some new plays in. We'll have to just wait and see how that all goes. I want to kind of make it through October though. If we make it through October and the 70K Bitcoin is aligning, then I might do one final big buy then, but I'm staying patient for right now. So we went over a lot today, went over my entire investment thesis. We went over, I mean, all of these altcoins. I went over my portfolio breakdown, the percentages, shared a lot of words of wisdom on the investment side of things. Got this decode for August 30th. It'll be an interesting way to finish off the month. And then we have getting through tomorrow with the full moon. So this will be an interesting week ahead. We do have an important weekly close coming up next week because it's the bi-weekly, right around Mercury stationing direct. So we'll recap that in next week's Red Pill. And in the meantime, feel free to ask any questions or anything to our community members in the Discord. And I appreciate and I'm grateful for every single one of you. Wishing you all a beautiful rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.